Welcome to the last day of February, and yes, it's a leap year. This is Network Africa. Coming up on the program, the AU delegation led by President Jacob Zuma makes progress. They opt to send 100 monitors to Burundi after their two-day visit. Then, could Kenya airports be targeted? The authorities aren't leaving anything to chance. Security is boosted after reports of potential suicide bombers. And the sight which every Nigerian dreads, the endless petrol queues are back. What is the cause this time around? Our energy correspondent joins us for the latest. We're thrilled to have you join us on Network Africa on Channels Television with me, Cynthia Are. Tomorrow marks the start of a new month, and whatever you could not do this month, don't you worry. God willing, you get to do it next month. Just before we bring you the progress report from Burundi, here's a quick summary of what made headlines this past weekend.
Spending 2 days in Burundi with the objective of jump-starting talks between President Nkurunziza and the opposition to bring the violence to an end, the AU delegation led by President Jacob Zuma have made some progress.
Dozens of migrants sailed to Greek island of Lesbos on Sunday, February 28, after spending days in secluded forests. Greece was the main gateway to Europe for more than 1 million refugees and migrants who reached the EU last year. The number of migrants and refugees arriving in Italy and Greece since the start of the year has risen sharply compared to the same period of 2015, and hundreds are stranded at European borders due to rising restrictions. Ghana is looking to cut back on its expenses during elections this year. According to President John Mahama, his government will maintain strict fiscal discipline ahead of a November vote to avoid repeated mistakes made during the last election.
We must practice an even greater degree of fiscal prudence in 2016. The bane of our economic management has been the cyclical, huge election year budget deficits. It is an unfavorable narrative for which Ghana, unfortunately, has become famous. I have assured the nation and our partners that my administration will exercise strict fiscal discipline even in this election year.
President of Ghana, Mr. John Mahama. Now, progress can sometimes be a slow process, but considering the extent to which the situation in Burundi has degenerated, any progress, no matter how little, is definitely worth telling. After spending 2 days in Burundi, the AU delegation led by President Jacob Zuma has made some progress. The details are in this next report.
Spending 2 days in Burundi with the objective of jump-starting talks between President Nkurunziza and the opposition to bring the violence to an end, the AU delegation led by President Jacob Zuma have made some progress. The African Union has opted to send 100 human rights monitors and 100 military monitors to the East African country. President Zuma confirmed the above, but remained tight-lipped about when the monitors would arrive Burundi, where more than 400 people have been killed since April.
Government of Burundi has committed to the following. The government will continue the steps it has begun to open up space for free political activity by the people of Burundi and ensure the freedom of the media. The AU will deploy 100 human rights observers and 100 military monitors to Burundi to monitor the situation. We are pleased with the participation and contributions of all these sectors. The high-level delegation of the heads of state and government express its concerns about the levels of violence, loss of life, and the general state of political instability in the country. We are, however, pleased that all parties expressed strong commitment to resolving whatever political problems exist through inclusive and peaceful dialogue.
After the brief statement, President Zuma wasted no time and headed home immediately. The violence in Burundi has rattled the region, which already has a history of ethnic conflicts. Burundi's civil war, which ended in 2005, largely pitted two ethnic groups against each other. Neighboring Rwanda was torn apart by genocide in 1994. Western powers have urged Africans to act. However, the United States and European nations have withheld some aid to poor Burundi and taken other steps to try to put pressure on the government to resolve the crisis, but they say it has had little impact. The decision to send monitors suggests a compromise had been reached with Burundi's president, Pt.1, who triggered the crisis in April when he announced a bid for a third term. He went on to win a disputed election in July in the face of street protests and violent clashes. The new initiative falls far short of the African Union's plan announced in December to send a 5,000-strong peacekeeping force, which Nkurunziza's government rejected.
Now, it's been barely 1 week since President Kenyatta of Kenya paid a visit to Israel, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu offered to help African countries in the fight against terror. It might be time for Mr. Netanyahu to make good on that promise, as Kenya's security might be under threat again. Security at Kenya's main airports have been stepped up following intelligence reports that suicide bombers plan to blow up planes. According to a memo which was released by the Standard newspaper, a leaked security memo was quoted as saying a team of 11 bombers had been trained in neighboring Somalia by Islamist group Al-Shabaab to carry out airborne suicide missions. That's in Kenya in late February or early March. According to the reports, the attacks mainly target domestic flights and operatives posing as passengers who intend to blow themselves upon landing. The memo further adds that 5 operatives will target Jomo Kenyatta International Airport or Wilson Airport, which are both in the capital, Nairobi, while the rest will focus on airports at the coast region, and among them, Moi International Airport. Joining us from Kenya is lead consultant for Sovereign Insight, Mr. Vincent Kimosop. Mr. Kimosop, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Now, how are authorities addressing this potential threat?
First of all, is that, as you're aware, this was an internal communication coming from the Kenya Airports Authority, and it was meant to ensure that internally they are prepared, and that sends a signal that the Kenyan government or the relevant authorities are not putting anything to chance, but are making sure that they are alert to any scenario that might happen. So that is a positive signal. Unfortunately, therefore, that has also sent fear to certain quarters, specifically that now it is on domestic travel. So both mixed reaction, positive that something is being done to address security, and then also the other question we also have is that the leakages, you're aware, came from a specific airport. So will the staff that leaked the memo be victimized? Because this happened with Wajir. Wajir, if you look at the memo, it's termed Wajir. So those are questions that may happen. Yes. But the bigger picture is that something is being done, relevant authorities not keeping anything to chance. And now the question is, how do we address the fear issue?
Speaking of the fear issue, is there a feeling of distress in the air among Kenyans now that this news has surfaced?
Not much, because not many people, as you're aware, the air travel is not a means that is used by a significant population. So to those who are, of course, using the domestic routes, busy ones like Mombasa, Nairobi, and the ones to Wajir, yes, those could be sections that are affected. But the authorities has come out clearly calming the nerves and notifying Kenyans. This is an internal mechanism to keep them safe, so sending a message of confidence and that their security is being well observed.
Well, Mr. Kimosop, thank you very much for joining us on Network Africa. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Still to come on Network Africa, Al-Shabaab claims responsibility for an attack which claims 30 lives in Somalia.